Today we're talking Amazon author pages, so stay tuned.
Hello, and welcome to the Christian Indie Writers Podcast, where we inform, encourage, and support Christian indie authors on their journey toward publication. I'm Christina Catane, and I write Christian dystopian fantasy.
I'm Jennifer Carl Tong, and I write historical Christian romance.
And I'm Jamie Hirschberger. I write short fiction under the pen name J.R. Nichols.
All right, so thanks for everyone for tuning in and all those listening live. We really love our chatters, and if you haven't had a chance to watch us live and be involved in the chat, it's really a great experience. There's lots of knowledge in there that we don't even get to sometimes when we're talking on the podcast. We also want to thank all of our listeners wherever you might listen to us. We want to thank you, like us, share us, tell all your friends about us, hit all the buttons, but don't hit the down like thumb, but hit all the other buttons.
If you don't like us, just stop watching.
Yeah.
Please.
Tell everybody how terrible we are.
There you go.
On every social media platform and with a link.
Right, tag us
Anyway.
in it.
So we like to start each episode with a little segment we call What's Up, where we go around and we ask everybody what's up. So, Jamie, what is up?
Oh my goodness. I just finished getting my What's Up ready for you because I decided today to return to the book of daily Stoic wisdom written by Eric Halliday. Oh goodness, I'm like so not prepared today. The Daily Stoic is a book where you can read the wisdom of the Stoics. Ryan Holiday is the name of the gentleman who compiled it, and it's kind of like a devotion. And if you haven't listened in a while, I haven't done anything in this little kind of What's Up series for a while, but I've been comparing the words of the Stoics to what the Bible says, because it's interesting that they had some wisdom, even though they were building statues to the unknown God and didn't really understand. They weren't Jews, so they didn't have any knowledge of Yahweh or so anyhow, this from May 10th, from Seneca's Moral Letters, there's the sentence, "Let us also produce some bold act of our own and join the ranks of the most emulated." And if you read what Ryan writes in his little devotional bit, it basically says you can have all of the wisdom in the world, but if you don't take action on it, what is the point? Which brought to mind the Bible verse, James 1:22, which says, "But be ye doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving your own selves." And then the Bible goes on to say, "For if any be a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like unto a man beholding his natural face in a glass, for he beholdeth himself and goes his way, and straightway forgetteth what manner of a man he was." And anyway, it says, "But whoso looketh into the perfect law of liberty and continueth therein, he being not a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the work, this man shall be blessed in his deed." And so I just thought that those were two great parallel bits of wisdom to pass along to y'all today as my What's Up.
Awesome. That made me think about this whole like Clifton Strengths thing, and like I have all these thinking strengths, and what happens is you get caught in an intellection loop where you just are thinking and not acting. Like, so that like reminded me of that. Like there's this window of time to act that if you don't act, you get stuck in the loop again.
It's really a struggle, though, because I've been wrestling with balancing working and resting, because I've come to understand that like I don't really know how to relax, because every moment that I'm not doing feels somehow like I should feel guilty about it. So you would think that this particular scripture or whatever would be feeling condemning toward me or something like that. And I've been struggling for a long time, because it's like I've been telling some of my friends, if you want to eat apples, you have to plant an apple seed. You can't just put that apple seed in your pocket and carry it around and say, someday I'm going to eat apples. But then I thought, well, if the apples are meant to grow, you'll lay down and die and the seed will get planted that way.
Oh, my
So
word, Jamie.
I can't figure out the balance between what you're expected to do to, make your life something, or like how much control do we really have anyway? I mean, God ultimately could send a tornado or could send a pandemic or anything to just completely derail your plans anyway. So it's like, ha ha ha, you really think you're in charge of whether or not you're going to eat apples? So anyway, it sort of starts this circular argumental loop in my head with myself. But I do think there is some wisdom in taking action to improve your circumstances if you don't like them.
I agree.
Yeah.
And I think that if you want to eat the apples, you have to put them in the ground before you die. Someone else will eat your apples if you don't take care of your business. That's
Plenty of apples
exactly
for
what you're
everyone
saying.
else.
Yeah, you're playing for everyone else, but you
You
don't
could
get to
always
eat the
eat someone
apples.
else's apples.
Yeah,
Right.
you could. Just don't eat any that witches offer to you
Yeah.
or anybody named Eve.
Oh my gosh, I just had this whole story pop into my head about a married couple and the wife's name is Eve and can't get her husband to eat apples. So anyway, so I'll go next. Something really exciting is coming for the podcast, and I'm just so excited about it because I talked to Becca Syme, and she's going to come on the podcast in July
Yay.
Yeah,
and
very
talk about
exciting.
her new book, The Intuitive Author. And that's not the title, but um, I think it's Dear Author, Are You Intuitive? I think is the title. But I read the book and I decided to completely change up the way that I'm writing book 3, and I'm so happy with it. But I'm
Yay.
gonna save like all those details for that podcast. But
Mhm.
like I just had to tell you guys it's coming.
Super exciting.
Yeah. What about you, Jen? What's up?
Well, let's hit the apparently I'm having a coughing fit. I keep muting myself, but and
Uh-oh.
I keep trying to drink my coffee and it's making it worse. But let's go to the chat first. Piper says that she's sick this week. Aw.
Oh,
But getting some words down,
yeah.
decided she needed to kill off one of her favorite characters. Good for you. It's always a good moment when you can kill off a character. Listen,
Oh my
people
goodness.
hate me because about almost every book 4, there's no one dying. But someone dies in like every book, it seems like, of mine, and people are not happy about it. But it makes for a better book. So, let's see. Joan says, "What's next? Since my second novel is published, I've gone back to drafting the 3rd book in the series. I have a deadline to finish it by the end of this month." Woohoo! Good for you, Joan. All right, so for me, I've gotten a ton of editing done. I am so close to being able to like send this book off to someone else that I can just feel like I almost like kind of wanted to stay up super late last night and just try to kind of like just do it. But then I knew that it wasn't going to be good editing. I was getting loopy. It was 9:00, and for me, that's the end, right? Like I am not a late night person. Tina was laughing at me earlier. She said that's when she just starts going. But yeah, that's when I have to wrap things up. But I did want to point out that there's a new member to the podcast. Did you guys notice? I have a new plant. And I had a whole bunch of other plants and they kept dying and I couldn't figure out what I was doing wrong and figured out that it was because I was watering them with our water. We have a water softener and the salt was killing them. So this one gets bottled water. I've named her Susan. If you watch the YouTube channel called Dude Dad, you'll know why I call her Susan. If you don't, you need to go watch the Dude Dad episode. My kids love him. That is, I think it's called Plant Mom or something like that. Because my kids watch it and they're like, "Mom, this is so you." So it's very funny. So anywho, that's what's going on with me.
Did you kill your ancient heirloom? No, that one's still alive.
That one's still live. And funny enough, that one I only always have done with bottled water. Like when I'm drinking or if I find one that someone's discarded, it would go into a plant. Well, that one I only water like once a month or whatever. So yeah. Barbara says, "Hi, Susan." Thanks, Barbara. Thanks for playing along. I appreciate you.
Well, I've heard talking to him is good for him.
Yeah. So she's part of the podcast
Yeah.
now. Unless she dies. If you see her missing, remember I had the one that did die. I kept I kept dressing it, trying to pretend that it was still with us, but no. But I potted that one with another snake plant. I really like snake plants, and they're actually, I guess, really hard to kill. I didn't know that, but Gigi says, "What's up? Working on a review of Alone in the Land of the Midnight Sun. Yay! Great book, Christina Catane.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. So
I also saw Shell. Good morning, Shell.
Oh, your husband's to the rescue here. He said, "It's my wife with plants,
yep.
Jen."
Go and when you're done watching us, go to YouTube and type in "Dude, Dad, my wife with plants," and it will be totally worth it. So it's very funny.
Okay.
And just put me in that he dresses up as his wife. I'll tell you, like he impersonates his wife. Just put me in that place, and it's totally me. So.
That's hilarious. Okay, so now we're on to our topic of the day. And today's topic is Amazon author pages. So we are going to talk all about that. But first, what is Amazon Author Central? Let's give a definition.
Right. I'm amazed of the number of people that have a book in KDP but don't know about Amazon Author Central. Did you ladies, how did you guys find out about it, first of all, before we go on? Do you remember?
When I was publishing, like I'm very much will read everything that kind of pops up person or and so everything related to the process, and Amazon somehow let me know. They were
Really?
like, yeah, there was something that popped up or an email they sent or sometime during the uploading process, and it was like, your readers can find you easier if you set up your author situation. And so I did.
Mm-hmm. I don't know how I found out. I was thinking about that earlier this morning because I think that I did. I think I noticed that other authors, you could click on their name and it would take you somewhere, right? So that's what this is. Amazon Author Central is where you create your profile that Amazon will let people make it clickable. So if you went to one of my books and it would say, like, say, searching for Anna, and then underneath it would say Jennifer Carl Tong, and that will be hyperlinked, and you click that, it'll take you to my profile. So Amazon Author Central is the back end of that. It is where you go to do all that work.
And I think that I heard about it in the SPF 101 course as
Like,
part of the things that you do to set up
that's
when you're
probably where I
publishing your
learned.
book.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that makes
I'm
sense.
suspecting that's probably where you learned it too.
Right. So.
Okay, why should we have an Amazon author page? You touched on it a little bit, but
Well, why would you not? I mean, it's absolutely free. Um, it's a soft marketing tool that Amazon just has right there for you. And for people who click on it, there's the opportunity for them to purchase everything you've ever published. There's an opportunity for them to get an idea of what you have on your author blog and all kinds of wonderful opportunities for engagement and possibly future sales. And it's the way that you make super fans is by having all of those touches.
Plus, it's nestled right in where people are doing their shopping. You know, when you think about it, like we for this all the same reasons we say to have a website. It gives you like authenticity. It makes you like look more legit. It gives you like a calling card kind of a situation, makes it like a business card, but it's right there where people are actually shopping for books. So it keeps you hyper, like when people go there, all your books are listed. People can like peruse that. We're gonna go look at one actually, but yeah. And again, like Jamie said, it's free. Why would you not?
and I just used it last night, like in real life, in the wild,
Oh
because
yeah.
I was watching a TV series that was based on a book that an author wrote. And the series ended on a cliffhanger, and the next season's not out yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went looking for the book that it was based on to
Mm-hmm.
see if I could figure out what happened to this character at the end because of the cliffhanger,
Uh-huh.
and found out this author has like 47 books.
Mm-hmm.
And I put a bunch of them on my wish list. So,
That's awesome.
yeah.
There's another great thing too is if there's an author that you enjoy and you go to their author central page, but you've read all their books, generally along the left-hand side, there'll be authors that are similar to. And they may not like that might not help you right there on your page that there's other authors listed, but guess what? You might be possibly listed on someone else's page. So it's a great interaction back and forth between similar authors, and it really is helpful for readers. So it just shocks me when I come across an author and they don't have it set up. Like it's just easy, it's free, it's fast. It's so easy that we're going to do one live here with you guys with no practice. Like, it's been years since I set mine up. So we're just going to do it. I'm going to show how simple it is. So this could be a complete train wreck, I'll be honest. But I think we're kind of known for complete train wrecks. So we're just sticking with our brand, right?
Yeah, try to figure out who the conductor is. Maybe we could.
All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead.
One of the things that I like too is if I really like an author and I'm waiting for their next book and I follow their Amazon author page, Amazon will send me an email that says this author you follow has just released a book.
Right. And although you can't tell how many people are following you, you don't have that list of people or any control over it. Again, it's free, right? Amazon will send out advertising for you that you would pay for somewhere else. Like at BookBub, you would pay them to let people know, or like you would pay for certain like sorts of advertising or whatever. But like Amazon does this for free for you just because people follow you. You don't have any control over it. But again, it's free. So why not?
Yeah.
So
exactly.
All right.
Okay. So let's talk about how to set up an Amazon author page.
Well, first of all, you have to have a KDP account and you have to have published at least one book. You can't, like a website, you can do that before you're published. You can kind of have that all set up so that when you're ready to publish, you're ready to go. But this you cannot. You have to have at least one book published. You could soft launch a book, like the ebook or whatever, before everything else comes out, just so you can set this up. But you have to have at least one book published to be able to do that.
Yeah, because I mean, Amazon doesn't want author pages and no books to sell. I mean, the
Right.
point for them is to sell books. So they're not just going to let you have free space on the Amazon site without a
Right.
product. Mm-hmm.
All right. Shall we go look at what it
Yes.
looks like?
We
All right.
shall.
So he'll share screen. Oh, look at this.
Oh, whose
oh.
author page is that?
I don't know. For those of you that are listening, we acknowledge that our podcast listeners are probably struggling right now, and we will try to verbalize as much as possible what we're looking at. But we really do hope that if you're listening to this and it is something that you have never seen or that you need to do, we really hope that you would go back and watch this YouTube video, because it will be walking you through the entire process. But we are right now looking at my author page, which looks a little sparse because I only have 4 books, 3 of mine, and then the nonfiction that I have with the Christian indie writers. But this is what readers will see when they click on one of your books, and then let's just do that really quick. I'm going to go to searching for Anna, and it looks like this. And you see how my name is hyperlinked. I should probably make this a little bit bigger for people to see it better. I have it smaller for the advertising portal that I use. Is that easier to see, guys?
Yeah.
Making it bigger.
Yes,
Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. So you can see that my name is hyperlinked. When I hover over it, it says visit Amazon's Jennifer Carl Tong page. Why, yes, I would love to. So we click on that. And then this is what they would come up to. There's a bio, there's a picture, there's a bio, there's my books, all kinds of things. There are author updates, including videos that we can put on. And then they list your books again with your first couple of lines of your blurb, which is why it's so important to have a good hook at the beginning of your blurb. That would be a great episode just on hooks. We should probably do that. And then at the bottom, it says recommended authors for you. These are authors that are recommended to me. They're not always quite right. Some of these authors are not clean, so I'm not really sure why, but they're romance writers. Some of them are Christian writers. Some of them are Christian romance writers. But the important thing for a reader is right here. If I'm looking for another author here on the left-hand side, here is a list of similar authors. And how does Amazon come up with this? Well, people that read my books have also read these books. And that's how they do that. So, all right. So let's go to how to do this. So this is what Amazon Author Central looks like, my Amazon Author Central. And you can see it's very clean. There's not a whole lot of things to click on. So it makes it pretty easy. Now, I have all of my books done. I already have my page done. But guess what? We figured out and realized, remember how shocked I was that there are so many authors that don't have a page done? Guess what author did not have a page done? Christian indie writers. We did not have.
Surprise.
Right. And so I reached out to Amazon and asked them to create a a pen name. It's technically Christian Indie Writers is a pen name of mine. I know it's hard to like because there's 4 of us, but that was the only way we could figure out how to do this. So reached out to them and asked them if they could add my pen name to my my Amazon Author Central, and they did. Not only did they do it for me, they added the book. So we're going to be skipping that part. I'm going to go over that real quick. But up here in the corner, I just click where it says my name and I go down to Christian Indie Writers. And now because they've added a pen name, I can add more pen names if I wanted to. So this is what Christian Indie Writers looks like. Hello, Christian, it says. We've done nothing at this point, but let's go. If you were brand new to this and you would go and you want to add your own one and only book, you go to author.amazon.com and you log in with your regular Amazon login, like what you do for KDP and everything else. And then you would go to books and see this green button here, add a book. You won't have any books listed here. You would click add a book and it will add it. Once you do that, I've never had to add it in my books. Once I add a book now, it automatically goes onto my page after I've done it the first time. So that's how you would do it. You can search your bookshelf. There's different ways to do it, but that's how you'll add your first book. Piper says, so you can look at your page in different countries to see what it looks like there. I did, and just saw that the prices for the books are different in other countries. That's correct. That's another episode we could do as well, is that we tend to just trust Amazon to do the pricing properly just because they do a conversion rate. But sometimes it looks funny to people. You know how we would have a book here at $3.99 or $4.99. If somebody had a book posted for $3.72, we'd be like, what? Right. So that's a whole nother thing that we could look at. But okay, so we're going to go back to home. And here's the things we're going to do. First of all, we don't want this gray C representing us because we are for sure not a gray group of gals, right?
Definitely
So
not.
you're going to click on your edit profile. I feel like I got to sneeze. I'm sorry. Okay. Add photo. Well, we have a handy dandy photo already. Click add photo again. I'm going to go to my downloads and grab this beauty here. Look at those gals.
Aren't we cute?
We're so cute.
We are.
And so you just have to have a picture that's square. And you could do a picture that isn't square. It'll take it square though and make it round and hit publish. And your photo was uploaded successfully. Boom. That's it. So
Just like that?
Just like that. Add biographies. Well, we have a handy dandy, beautiful biography that our friend Jamie wrote for us. So I'm just going to real quickly go over there where it is and copy it. Of course, my mouse is going to act up.
And just so everybody knows, episode 142, how to take a better headshot, will help you to have a picture so that you're ready for this moment. You're ready for your close-up.
I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. DeVille. I don't even know what that's from.
It was some actress. I wonder who said that.
Now we have to look it up.
Yeah, there's no reason to wonder anymore.
Right. All right. So I'm going to paste. See, I told you this was going to be a train wreck. Why is this not working?
It was Gloria Swanson as the driven big screen actress Norma Desmond in the closing scenes of the 1950 movie Sunset Boulevard. The classic reference is that she is finally ready to bring her presence before the cameras of famed filmmaker and producer Cecil B. DeMille. So there you have it, folks. So what's happening? Our bio is
don't know. The bio won't paste.
Well, meanwhile,
Okay.
The reason that we're doing this, what, did it work?
Nope. Go ahead. Please.
The reason that we're doing this is because we have a book that we wrote. It's 90 days of writing sprint prompts. And what it is prompts for you to develop a daily writing habit. Is it 90 or is it 30? Listen to me.
30.
So
It's
just
30
talking
days.
out of my. So anyway, because if you do anything for 30 days, it becomes a habit. And the ideal is writing something every day will improve your craft and get you across the finish line of your writing and publishing goal even sooner. So, it looks like it populated.
It did. And the problem I found, and I've had this problem before, is things that are written in Google Docs don't paste over properly. Google Docs has some weird coding or whatever. So I took it in a notepad. That was the only problem. So we can preview the bio. That's what it's going to look like. We're going to go ahead and publish it. It says, okay, done. Bio is done.
Look at that.
Beautiful. You can edit it later if you want. So we've got, let's go and see what it looks like right now so far. So we're going to hit go.
There's our book. Isn't she cute on the cover there?
She's so cute. Why is the picture not working?
I don't know. Maybe you got to refresh, or maybe.
Sometimes it takes a little time for the main page to get updated, I noticed.
Oh, okay.
Because I changed out my photo from the old one we did to the new one we did.
Mhm.
And it did take a little bit of time for it to populate on that page.
Okay.
All right. So
All
what's
right.
next, Jen?
Let's do our blog feed. Now, everybody doesn't have a blog, but I know that a lot of you do. So I have my blog, which is, I don't do much with it, but I do have it linked. We, on the other hand, do quite a bit on our blog. So we're going to add a new feed. And I already, again, copy and pasted that. We'll see if this works this time going into this. I might go ahead and just put it straight into Notepad first. Do that. Would you guys, those that are in our chat, are you guys interested in a podcast about blogging? Like,
right. I was just thinking I would recommend to them an episode that we have about blogging, but I forgot that it was like, well, do people even want that? So
right. All right. So I've added the blog. It was that fast. Also, you can add photos and videos. So we have a little video that we are going to upload and see. It may take a long time, so we're going to give it a try and see.
So Piper is asking, what do you think about linking a blog that you don't update that often? I'm inclined not to include it. And Barbara's saying, yes, she would like an episode about blogging. And I'm going to say, just because I know that Piper has a newsletter, I'm not sure why you wouldn't have something to put on your blog if you do a newsletter, because I would think that you would put your newsletter content as a blog post.
Exactly.
Would you agree with that, Jen?
Yes, that's exactly what I would do. And that's what I do. If I send out a newsletter once a month, my blog is going to get updated at least once a month. This month, I did not put my newsletter as a blog post. I shared with my newsletter subscribers a link to my website where they could read a deleted scene from A Calling for Phoebe. And in that scene, I just made it a blog post that they went to. And I got a lot more traffic on my website this week because I had sent that out. So they don't have to be. We'll go back and we'll look at my blog posts too, because, okay, so the video is going to process, but again, done. All that's finished. So in just these past few minutes, it's not even 10:30 yet. In these past few minutes, we were able to add an image, add our bio, link our blog, and upload a video.
Yeah.
So now we have an author page that is like actually got stuff happening on it.
And if you don't have a website, this is a terrific place to send people who, when they ask you about your writing career, there is no shame in having this to start, because this is way easier than tackling WordPress and costs a lot less money than Squarespace or any of the others. Right. And here it is, a place where you can send people to buy your books and to learn a little bit about you.
Right.
I have this little thing that I can stick on my phone, and it's a QR code, and you can go in and program that QR code to go anywhere you want. So I have it going to my Amazon author page, where they can see both of my books that I have published. So then if I'm like out in public and somebody says, oh, where can I find your books? I can say, here, scan my code.
Now, again, I would be the person that would argue you need a website, but that's a whole nother episode. But again, if you don't have one, this is a great place to send people. Fair warning, though, you don't own it. Amazon can change the game at any point. But as of right now, it is free. It is something that looks very professional, and it's very easy to do, as you saw in just these few minutes that we did. Unfortunately, it's not transferring over fast enough, but knowing Amazon, they are probably reviewing the image. They're probably reviewing the video. You know what I mean? So that's probably why it's not there. But we'll skip over and we'll look at mine really quick, talking about the blog feed. So here's my blog. First of all, I've uploaded videos. These are my trailers that I just did myself for my books, and they show up in the same place that the blog does, kind of randomly, because it's been a while since I uploaded a video. But and then my just this image that I have here of myself. So then you can see that here's my blog post. It says 3 days ago, 2 months ago, but it looks nice and clean on there. So even if you didn't update it very often, it gives somebody who's just happening across you something to read about of you. It's giving them a way to click on, because look at, if they click on here, guess what happens? Well, it's going to take a minute, but it takes them to your website. So, I mean, again, it's a free way to bring traffic back to something that you do own. And Amazon is just giving it away to you. So we'll have to back up to that. So were there any questions? And I mean, it's so easy to do this that I'm sure that there's not any questions. And there might be some people that already have done this and are just like, yeah, whatever, we've already done it. But again, I just want to make sure that everybody knows that this is out there. All right. Piper says,
any questions?
did we go over this one? Like, I have 2 and 3 priced at $3.99 US, but in the UK, book 2 is £3, but book 3 is 2.91 pounds. Yeah, that's strange. I don't know. You can go in the back end of KDP and you can set the individual prices for every single country. You completely have that ability to do that. They just don't really, most people don't do it because it just takes time, but you for sure can do that.
You have to figure out the exchange rate and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right.
So if there's no questions, then I think it's time to transition to our favorite time of the podcast, called the feeding of the backs. And that's where we've set a timer for 15 minutes just before the podcast begins with a random prompt, and we write for 15 minutes, no time to edit, no time to plan. And so, because this is unedited, unpolished work, we're going to read it and we're going to give positive feedback. And then once we get enough feedback, our backs will be well fed and we can move on to the next person. So that's our little explanation of that. And let's start with you, Jennifer.
All right. So we had
prompt.
so we had 5 words. I didn't get hardly any words in, but no, I mean, I used all 5 words. I didn't write very many words, but I really like what I wrote. 265 words is what I wrote. So, and I have a part in here where there's a bunch of X's because I don't know what I'm going to put there. I honestly don't know how many years that Colleen has been here. I haven't figured that out in the writing yet. So we're back into my Widows of the West, book 1, just kind of like writing randomly in there. So.
Oh, just before you go, Barb says she never even thought about her Amazon author page. Thanks.
Oh, good. I'm glad we helped someone.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why we do this. And if there's a topic that you all would like us to cover, or, you want us to do, just send us a line. Sorry, Jen.
That's great. So our 5 words were conscious, billowy, depressed, tough, amazing. And listen, we don't just do this to show off. We do this to encourage you all to be writing every single day and to be using prompts, because prompts will do like amazing things for you. This is why we wrote this whole book. Like, it's amazing what it'll do. Things that ideas and scenes that you never even thought of, you kind of get forced out of your head because of the prompts. So we encourage you to take these words, sit down for 15 minutes and write, and then share it with us on social media or whatever, and tag us so that we can share it with the world. So here we go. Isn't it amazing how God shows up in the everyday mundane things? Colleen had spent the last however many years noticing this. Trapped as she was in the small world she had been married into, she found that she had to look for him in even the smallest of objects. The slight breezes that swept across the dirt, the tiny ant carrying 10 times its weight across the deck boards of the front porch, the sunset announcing that she had made it through another day. But since Denise' passing, though the physical size of our world had not actually expanded, Colleen was conscious that her perspective had. It was tough to stay depressed when billowy cotton clouds floated above, or when the sun peeked its head above the horizon, ready to bake the hot Texas earth under its guardianship. It was amazing, really. And even though Colleen found herself in the precarious position of possibly losing her ranch, when she stopped and soaked in the Lord's presence as he settled in all around her, she found for just a moment that she did not worry. For who could worry about losing anything that your father already owns? If in the end, if after all her toil, her heavenly father still deemed that this property should be taken from her to go to someone else, who was she to question? Did the ant complain about his burden? No, he just picked up his morsel and moved on, which is exactly what Colleen would do if she must. She just prayed that she wouldn't have to. 3, 2, 1. Like I literally typed in 2 like 5 seconds before it ended.
Do you know why I love this so much? I mean, there's a lot of reasons, but do you remember how you wrote about the storm coming?
Yes.
And Colleen's attitude was kind of like, "Thy will be done." And
Yeah.
now everything is parched and dry. And
Mhm.
she's like, "Thy will be done." And it seems like a theme is
Huh.
emerging,
Yeah.
whether you realize it or not.
I didn't. You're
And
right. I
it's
forgot about that
yeah.
scene.
And that might help you, like, as you shape this story
Mhm.
and this novel, that she is very much a woman who is all about God's will. But what's fascinating is that she bucks him about the ideal of a new love, right? Like, so
Yes.
there's the tension, is because thy will be done, but not that will. Not the
Right.
will that I maybe fall in love with this man or whatever. So anyway, I really love that the sprint is drawing out these, like you said, like, would you have ever even written this scene?
No, never. Like,
Mm.
I when we sat down today, I don't think any of us wanted to write. Like, we all almost every single Friday, we're like,
Mm-mm.
"Ugh." But and I didn't like the words at all, but I do love this, and again, like, it did pull something out of me that I didn't know was there, and I'd forgotten about that scene, but you're right, that will be such a good framing of a part of the story. Like, I can use
Mm.
the both of those scenes to signify certain plot points, in certain areas of the story. And now that you said that, it's already starting to swirl in my head what I'm gonna do with this. So it needs some work. It needs to be developed a little bit more, but I like the feel of it. I like where it's going. And so, yeah.
Yeah, and also I like how she was preaching to me because you forget about gratitude sometimes and the
Yeah.
wonderful medicine that it can be.
Mhm.
Yeah. I'm really partial. I'm probably nobody who's ever read my writing will know this, but to descriptions of nature, like they just pull me
Uh,
and so I really loved, like, you touched on enough to pull me in to be in that place. I could feel myself there.
Thank you.
So I really
Piper
like
says, "Lovely, Jen." Shell says, "Wow, Jen, so beautiful." Piper also says, "Oh, Jamie, such good insight." Yes, well.
Yeah.
And then Gigi says, "Jennifer, that story left me with such a calm.
Aw.
Beautiful." And then Joan says, "Beautiful story, Jen. Great
Thank you,
job."
guys. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate that.
Okay, I'm gonna go next, and like Jennifer, I didn't want to write today, and I didn't know what if what story I was gonna write in because I said the words. These words won't work for the next scene in book 3 that I want to write,
Yeah, I'm curious to know what you
and
ended up doing.
and I really didn't want to write outside of book 3 because that's my brain is like hyper focused on book 3 right now. Well, I decided I would just see if I could fit the words in, and I actually got them all in.
And do you like
Wow.
what you wrote?
It needs some work,
Mhm.
but it's a start.
All right. Awesome.
So, Petra watched the shore slowly recede into the distance until it was nothing but a thin, dark line on the horizon.
Good, good.
All the work he'd done, memorizing the roads and buildings of the refinery camp, was all for nothing. His plan of escape, carefully plotted down to the finest detail and timed to the minute, completely useless. There was no escaping now, out on the ocean in this enormous gray ship. It was the strangest thing Petra had ever seen. Giant pipes snaked across the deck like a maze, coming out and going back into the floor in what seemed to be random places. There were yellow and red lines painted on the deck to keep the men from getting lost in the maze of pipes, while they walked from one place to another, checking gauges and writing in logbooks connected to orange boards made out of a material they called plastic. They said Petra could go where he wanted on the ship in his free time, except for on deck, where he was confined to this observation platform. It was too dangerous up top, is what they said. Petra tried hard not to be depressed by these new circumstances. Tried to find things to be thankful for, like the billowy clouds that floated lazily by, or the amazing vastness of the ocean. It was the first time in Petra's life that mountains didn't frame his world. He'd never really given
Mm.
much thought to the world beyond the mountains until he found himself here on this oil tanker, headed for what the crew called the lower 48. He'd asked about it, but it only led to a convoluted diatribe on ancient politics and war. He zoned out midway through the explanation, still ignorant of the meaning of the term. Petra became conscious of a presence behind him and turned to find Ivan ascending the ladder. Beautiful, isn't it? Ivan said, a rare smile on his face as he tilted his head back and gazed at the sky with his piercing blue eyes. Yes, it is, was all Petra said in reply. He found it tough to be civil with the man, but he knew that he must not only be civil, but respectful and friendly. Everything depended on it. 3, 2, 1.
There's so much in there that's good. I like
Mm.
that he's never considered a life beyond the mountains. And it's funny too, because I hear a little bit of Tina Katane in there when she's like, there's no mountains over here. It's like even the Porcupine Mountains cannot compete to what Tina has seen as far as mountain ranges go. Was that bit a little bit autobiographical, Tina?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely miss the mountains.
Yeah, very good descriptive work.
My
As usual.
favorite was your very first sentence.
Mm-hmm.
As he was pulling away. People could write and say, Petra was standing on a ship. Or Petra looked as he was going out to the ocean. No, you just said he watched the coastline become a thin black line. So without telling us, immediately we knew he's on a ship and he's out in the ocean immediately. And I love that. Tina, you are developing so much. Like I think back to how when we first started as a writing group, I think we've all developed, right? We've all become better because we write. Like the more you write, the better you become. But I'm just so impressed with how you did that. And then there was a little bit later in the writing too. I should have wrote down because I knew I'd forget. But you like showed us something instead of telling us. And it was just, this was so full of show, not tell. I just loved it so
Thank you.
much.
Yeah, and we learn a bit about Petra too, to ask a question and then zone out during the answer. Like he almost really didn't care enough to listen. He's just like, I just love my home. I don't even care what lower 48 means. I mean, I cared for 2 seconds.
That was it too. Is if somebody were just throwing this piece to them and they read this, they would automatically know that this was like futuristic or that something had happened, because who doesn't know what the lower 48 means? Well, somebody that has been cut off from the rest of the United States and that something has happened. Then you're like, well, why doesn't he know what's happened? Like, it's just great how you wrote that. So
Thanks.
good.
Well, in the chat, Liz says she's just popping in to say hi. Today is
Liz.
chaos. It's not time for her to have her baby, is it? But anyway, she says she'll check out the replay in a few days. So everyone's saying hi.
Little
Piper
tiger.
says,
How's little tiger
little
doing?
tiger. Piper says she's looking forward to getting her hands on the next story, Tina.
Mhm.
And Gigi says that she can feel the pain in Petra's heart being on this oil tanker below deck. So good. Awesome. And Barbara says, nice. Best laid plans. Immediately wanted to know what happened. And Shell said, great scene, Tina. I can feel Petra's disappointment. And just a little bit of callback to what Jen wrote, Barb said that your piece is very timely, Jen, as people are facing loss. And it's a really good reminder. So it kind of preached to her too. So yeah. We love the feeding of the backs. Well, yes. I do. Yes.
And now it's your turn, Jamie.
Yay. Although I apologize in advance because the story was much larger than 15 minutes allowed for. It's been a long time since it really got me. I tried to get there, but anyway, this is what you get. And I used, I think, 3 out of 5 of the words. So yay me. Starting with the very first sentence. I was depressed. Some, including my papa, would argue that a trip to the circus would be a great idea, a remedy for what's ailing ya, as he'd put it. But I saw it for what it was long before the climatic calamity that cinched the day as a failure in the minds of everyone who'd descended upon the billowing big top that day. A colossal mistake. It started with the ride over. Papa riding shotgun next to Charlie, who was as oblivious to my struggles with the kids as ever he was ignorant of the struggles we endured in the back. The front seat passengers rode with the windows down and elbows propped, but myself and the 3 tiny bodies of my children sweltered, breathing in uncirculated stale air because the car made a weird whooping sound with all 4 windows down, and the wind whipping through the back seat made the drive unpleasant in an entirely different way. Maddie asked for the windows to be lowered and back, if only just a crack, to provide us with some relief. But as his request was granted, we drove past the old Mansfield place, and the scent of manure rode in upon a roasty, toasty breeze. Put it up, shrieked little Lindsay, holding her nose, and Papa, completely unfazed, lowered his hand to zip up the window, sealing us once again back into our sweaty cocoon. Thankfully, I was a barrier between Lindsay and Maddie, so he could only shoot a daggerous glare at her. His real revenge would come later. Things seemed to take a turn for the better when we spotted the first glimpse of the billowy tents, for this was more of an encampment that had descended upon our town than a singular act. We saw signage, too, promises of amazing acts of daredevilry and sights never before seen. The excitement and enthusiasm of kids was contagious, and even I started to smile watching them point and listening to them plot out their course for the afternoon as attraction after attraction caught their eyes. Let's ride the elephants first, Lindsay shouted, and to my surprise, Maddie agreed. The wait for the elephant rides was not a long one. It says run, but it's one. To save money, I volunteered to stay off and take pictures. I decided to snap a couple of stills with the kids waving down at me from the weird little basket they'd been placed in, and then decided the rest of the ride would be better remembered in video. I pressed record and watched the lumbering beast come toward me, trunk curled, ears flapping, and a twinge of conscience gripped me. Did this animal like its life as a beast of this particular sort of burden? I wondered. As if reading my mind, the elephant suddenly looked up and made eye contact with me. What? The video captures me saying, though I was standing far enough away that the idea the beast could hear me was laughable. I couldn't help it. The suddenly attentive posture of the animal was startling, and suddenly quite alarming. A noise like nothing I'd ever heard erupted from the beast, and before my mind could process what was happening, something pulled me by my right arm into the ground just seconds before the elephant. Time's up.
Stop, Jamie.
I know. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's why you apologized at the beginning. I was
Yes.
like, why is she apologizing? Oh, my word. Now her kids are still on top of this
the
elephant.
Yes.
Oh. So, okay. So there's so much happening. I loved it. I loved it. I love the description in the car. But when you were reading that, it made me feel like this was a very old story because of like not having air conditioning, the windows being down, back up. And then, but then she pulled out a video camera. So now I'm like even more intrigued by like what's happening. Who are these people? Like you always write it in a way that makes you want to keep reading to find out who the people are. Why are they there? Like more of their experiences. Just so well done the way you just unfold a story like that. Loved it.
I appreciate that.
And I loved your description of the elephant with the curled trunk and the flapping ears.
Mm-hmm.
And even though you just said a sound like you'd never heard before, I could hear the elephant trumpet. Like it was really good.
Thanks. I appreciate that. And it's really interesting what a sprint does to you because, so for example, that line, your brain has to like, the elephant trumpeted. And you're like, I don't want to say that. And you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And you have to so fast decide how you're going to communicate to the writer what is going on. Do you know what I mean? And I think that learning to do that quickly is why sprinting is good. It's particularly pressureful for us because we know we're going to have to share these with people.
Right.
For the entire world.
Yes.
Potentially.
Yes. But if you're just doing it for your own edification, you can write the elephant trumpeted. And then, you know, like later read it back and say, I don't like the elephant trumpeted. What would I want to say instead? And I'm still not sure that this is what I would keep like in an edit. I'm not saying that, but I'm just kind of saying like the ability to say it differently, I think is developed over time. Like those, because you always want to pinpoint, well, writing more makes your writing better. Well, why? And how? And so if I ever stumble across something like that, that's the things I like to share because I think the ability to change. Like, I wonder if you two had moments in your sprint where it's like, I could have said this, but I said this. And sometimes it's the sprint word that makes you like billowy.
Mm-hmm.
might make you say about the clouds different than you would have. Can you think of one, Jen?
It was the word tough. I
Mm,
had said something else in there, like it was hard to, but we had the word tough. And so I switched it really quick to tough, but like tough really kind of has a different connotation and feel to it. Like, and so like that could be a spot that I would go back and actually massage that sentence a little bit more to really like, why was it tough? What's tough about it? And probably pull out like, I mean, here she is in this dry Texas, like, and so what is something that is tough and dried out or like chewy or you know what I mean? Like I could really like stop there and marinate for a minute just because there's that one word tough. Like I actually had all these thoughts, but there wasn't time. But again, the sprint is just getting you going and then you go back and you work on it later, right?
Right.
yes. And now you're talking about marinating and tough, and it's like I want jerky.
I know. I mean, like seriously, that's probably where I would go. Like I would
Yeah.
probably talk about jerky or like an old like
Leather piece or
misused like saddle that
oh,
was
yeah.
like rotting in the back, you
An
know.
old
And
cowboy that's been out in the sun all his
yes,
life.
I mean,
Oh,
there's
yeah.
so there's so many things I could do. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I you know, you talked about when we first started the group, and I think the first piece I ever submitted was just like all passive voice, like the
oh
whole thing.
yes.
And now, like when I even start to write passive voice, my brain just like goes, nope,
Right, because of
because
practice and
I've
being around you.
learned
Yeah.
like to recognize passive voice and go, no, I need to shorten this up or I need to make it more active. And so like those kind of things happen over time.
Kim says, "I never understood the purpose of sprints until I watched your channel, and now it's my favorite part. I don't always say anything, but I watch and enjoy whether it's live or later." Oh, Kim, we
Oh,
appreciate that.
thanks.
But you
Very
gotta
Awesome.
much.
understand, there's nothing special about us. Like we honestly, like Tina was saying, our writing a few years ago was pretty abysmal in a lot of different ways. And sprinting has we really mean that. Like we put this book out to help support the podcast, but really like the topic is because we really truly believe in sprints. So, all
Yeah.
right. So Barbara says, Jamie, to the end of yours, she says, no.
That's what I felt.
Yeah. Michelle says, whoa, yes, finish the scene. Lots of exclamation points. Piper says, wow, I need to know what caught the elephant's attention. What? Gigi says, "Oh, Jamie, I was so into this story. I felt like the discomfort in the car and the elephant, such an excellent description." Yes. And Joan agreed. My mouse is messing up again. Joan agreed. She says, "So good, Jamie. Wonderful descriptions."
Thanks, everybody. I
Awesome.
love Friday.
Okay, well, now it's time for another transition. And this is what we call the What's Next segment. And so we go around and we talk about what's next. So, what's next for you, Jamie?
I just want to give a big thank you to everybody who listens to this podcast and watches and the live chatting people because you're the reason that we do this. And Jen hit me up last night just randomly, like, do you want to work on your writing stuff a little bit? And like, I haven't. And just this whole podcast has really been kind of an anchor in my life and it's been terrific. And so, because of the excitement about Tina's book launch and the great things that are happening with Jen's career and all of you all being so encouraging, I've really started to redevelop an interest in, my writing career. And I'm starting to unback burner a little bit. Now I'm doing some other things like the money making, got to bring home the bacon part of my life that makes my time a lot more limited than ever it was before. But I'm starting to actually want to fill my free time with getting the finishing touches on my novel. And when I'm at work and my mind is not otherwise occupied, I'm thinking about my little Appalachian girl and how badly I would like to bring her story to life and the other books that I have just waiting to be polished up and published for y'all. And it's because you all keep showing up. And I just so appreciate all of you. So my what's next is to just kind of like get back at it. So hopefully within the next few weeks, there'll be even better updates in that regard.
Yay.
Awesome.
How about y'all?
I'm so excited to read your novel, Jamie. So I'm
Yeah.
glad that you're feeling it again.
I appreciate that. Thanks so much, Tina.
So I'll go next. My what's next is working on book 3, and I have, like I said, I've changed up the way when I read Becca's new book about intuitive writers, I thought about how I used to write before I learned how to write.
Right.
Before I started learning how to be an author. And she was talking about editing as you go. And that's the way that I used to write. I used to like write a couple paragraphs, go back and read it, fix anything I saw that I needed to be fixed, tweak the sentences, write a couple more paragraphs, go back, repeat. And I felt like my writing was better. And when I do that, like if I'm have to add a scene to a book and I'm kind of editing as I go, I tend to do better. And so I decided, and also I spent a lot of time. It took me a year and a half to do book 2, but 4 months of that was writing the rough draft. And the
Mhm.
rest of the time was feeling paralyzed and stuck in the revision and editing process.
Mm.
So I decided I'm going to write book 3 and edit as I go. And I'm really happy. The writing is going slower. It's probably going to be, I don't know if it'll be 4 months or a little longer, but I feel like the writing is so much better. And so I'm really happy and excited to write.
That's
And
so
I
great, Tina.
agree, and I love it because, by the way, I did happen to kind of look it up so that we could. It's actually called Dear Writer. Are you intuitive? And Amazon says that it's Becca Simon, Susan Bishop as the authors. And I just want to say that I really appreciate about Becca that she's very much about like, well, that works for Susie Q over there, but you are not Susie Q. And,
Right.
when we talk about that, we're the Christian Indie Writers podcast, it's like a body. If we were all eyes, where would the hearing be? And if we were all ears, what about the seeing? And if you're so busy trying to be an ear, you're like actually handicapping or whatever the body of Christ. So I appreciate that that you are very much being Christina Catane. That should be celebrated. That you're working hard to be you.
Thank you.
And Piper agrees. She says, Tina, that's my process too. I can't just word vomit and come back later. I get stuck trying that way.
Awesome.
All right. Well, in our chat, Piper says what's next is really want to finish my book this month. Also have almost completed tiling my kitchen backsplash. Need to finish this weekend.
Wow,
And
that's
you're sick.
ambitious. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And,
Oh, yeah.
and you're sick. Joan says, what's next to continue drafting book 3 in her contemporary romance series. She has a 4-day weekend there in the UK. Oh,
Ooh.
is it for the Queen's Jubilee? I think that's what it's called. It's all over our news right now. So hoping to make much progress. That's awesome. So we're praying about that for you, Joan. Joan also says, ooh, I also bought that Tina's first book. And even though I don't
Oh,
usually read
yay.
Christian fantasy, I just know I'm going to love this one. So excited.
You know what's exciting to me is I think that Joan saw my things on TikTok and maybe that made her, she'll have to tell us if that's true. But I have seen an uptick in sales since I started playing with TikTok. So I'm a little excited about
That's awesome.
what's going on there.
Tina's going to start calling it up TikTok.
What
Piper is saying that she shares your process, Tina. She can't just word vomit and come back later to edit. So she's encouraging you in your individualization.
Awesome. Yep. Okay, Jen, what's next?
Well, I have been editing like a crazy person. And so my what's next is I believe I can finish my edits before next week. So that's my goal.
Ooh.
And I also, so that's my writing goal. I also would like and covet everyone's prayers. So we have a doctor's appointment with my mother next Friday, and she went to see this. It's a hematologist. She went 3 months ago, and he hinted around that he thought that he could see something in her blood work, but the only way to know for sure was to do like a bone marrow test, which he's like, why would I put her through this? For those of you that don't know, my mother has Alzheimer's and has been going downhill quickly, like in the past few months, and is now in a nursing home. So we go to the hematologist again next Friday afternoon, and he's going to hopefully have answers for us after like 3 months of more blood work and watching her blood. And I pray that like there's nothing, or I pray that if there is something that we can have some answers, because I do believe that my mother is in a pain that we don't understand, and that she's not getting her pain managed because she's not diagnosed, if that makes sense. So I'm praying for a diagnosis one way or the other so that we can change her care. because I am really concerned that she just isn't, and then not the fault of her nurses and doctors, or, the nurses at the home that she's in. They can't do anything unless she's diagnosed. So be praying for that for me. And
Yeah,
that she
because
also has a peaceful week this coming week.
she's unable to really communicate
Right.
what's going on for her.
Yeah.
Right.
So
That's sad.
So, but anyway, so I get to see her like every day, and she still knows who I am, and so that's, praise God. I want to end with a praise, because God has been very, very good throughout this whole process to us. So
Right.
well, and I hope it's okay that you brought up coveting prayers. We just ask that everyone still continue to pray for Rhonda, our fourth host here, because we miss her deeply. But we know that she's really going through it right now with some health issues. And we really hope that y'all will continue to pray for her, because we miss her and we're concerned and we love her to death. And
Yeah.
so we really covet your prayers for healing for her.
the show
I
just
was
isn't the same
just
without
about
her.
to say that. So thank you, Jamie.
Mm.
We miss you, Rhonda. We love you. It's just not the
Yeah.
same without you.
Yeah. Okay. So next week we are going to talk about handling negative criticism and bad reviews. Everybody's
Ooh.
favorite thing. So you'll want to come back and join that conversation. But
And
until
if you're listening and you're a hater, go leave us a bad review so we can practice.
yeah, we
before
need
next week.
examples for our podcast next week.
That's one way of looking at it. But make sure you post it everywhere with a link.
Everywhere. Yeah.
Yes, a
Yes.
link.
Yes.
Okay, so this concludes the Christian Indie Writers podcast. So until next week, may your pen be prolific, your deadlines be met, and may all of your words honor Christ. Bye
Bye,
now.
everyone.
Bye.
Okay.